I'm here with Konrad Walewski, who's kind of a jack of all trades in the Polish science fiction community. He's a writer, a translator, a publisher. He does a lot of stuff outside of Poland as well, and has been in contact with a lot of the biggest names in publishing and some of the biggest writers. But what I want to talk to him about today mostly is the Polish version of the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, which has become kind of a force in the Polish science fiction community. So first, Konrad, I wanted to ask why you decided to start up a Polish version of the magazine of fantasy and science fiction.
It all started a few years ago when I was still collaborating with, at that time, the biggest Polish fantasy and science fiction magazine called Nowa Fantastyka. And at that time I realized that we didn't have in Poland a magazine that would concentrate on fantasy and science fiction as literature, not as a part of, the big market, which includes games, which includes RPG and that sort of things, but also mainly as literature, and not just genre literature, but serious literature. So my ambition, my idea from the very beginning was to try to find a label for and try to find a group of people to start to establish a magazine that would publish very ambitious, very different, very new fantasy and science fiction literature and beyond. Not only fantasy and science fiction, but literature that is usually uncategorized.
And when you got into the kind of nuts and bolts of it, what were kind of some of the particulars or the foundation of your vision when you actually started putting the magazine together physically?
I think that one of those really important moments was when I met Gordon Van Gelder in the United States. I've been a reader of fantasy and science fiction for years, but when I met him, I just realized that he's one of the people I could talk to who could support such an idea of having, a magazine, a similar magazine in Poland. Because one of the things I loved about Gordon as a publisher and editor-in-chief of the magazine is that he was very open to all kinds of new things. Under his editorship, fantasy and science fiction didn't concentrate only on fantasy and science fiction, but also on all kinds of things that were new. And I think that Gordon still is a person very, very much open to all kinds of new things in literature. So when I met him, I just realized that he's the person to talk to. And of course, he supported the idea very much. So that led me to another very important thing, looking for a publisher in Poland. At that time I collaborated with quite a good publisher called Solaris, but somehow we didn't get on well, so we didn't decide to do the project, to go on together. And then I met Kasia and Rafał from Powercraft, and that was it. There was one more thing I would like to mention, if I may. At that time, the editor-in-chief of Polish Nowa Fantastyka was Paweł Matuszek, who was a close friend of mine, and we had a very, very important thing in common. We read mostly the same things, we appreciated mostly the same things, we loved the same authors, and I knew that if ever I would to go on with publishing and editing my own magazine, I would definitely do that with Paweł. And a few years ago, I was in the States. I completed a very interesting list of stories and material to be published here. I got back to Poland and I phoned Paweł. I said, look, I have really great stuff for you for the magazine. And he said, I do appreciate it, but I'm leaving. I'm fed up with the publisher, I'm fed up with the magazine, so I just want to leave. And that was the moment, that was it. That was when I realized that I have the right person, I'm in touch with really good people to do that, and that's how it all started.
And how much freedom has Gordon Van Gelder given you in terms of the brand and everything?
Gordon is an incredible person. He once he trusts you, he knows that you're doing the right thing. We can publish all the stuff that he publishes in the original edition of fantasy and science fiction, but we have the freedom to publish Polish writers. We have the freedom to pick up stories from practically any other source.
And what has the reception been like?
I know that from the very beginning we had a huge support from not just fantasy and science fiction fans, but readers, people who are interested in good reading, good literature. What is quite nice and good for the magazine, of course, is that within the fandom we are believed, at least on the basis of one poll, the best literary magazine at the moment.
What Polish writers have you published in its pages that you'd like to point out to English-speaking audience?
Since we are just quarterly, we've published 2 Polish stories so far, but of course there are a couple of very interesting Polish writers who definitely deserve to be published in English, both in the States and in Britain, and probably in all English-speaking countries. One of my favorite at the moment is Wit Szostak, whose novel Chochoły is, in my personal opinion, probably one of the best Polish novels in recent years, not just in the genre fiction, but generally in contemporary fiction. Jacek Duka is a big name. There are a couple of other writers I could mention. There's Anna Brzezińska, a fantasy writer, very good one. So there's a group of writers. We have a group of very interesting, very clever, very intelligent writers, also stylists that they write very well, who definitely deserve to be published in the States.
What other projects are you involved in or working on right now?
I'm just finishing an anthology of stories about time. This is not an anthology of stories about time travel, but all aspects of time. So of course I have some stories about time travel in it. I have some stories about alternative realities. I have some stories about all kinds of time shifts, time slips, and that sort of things. And apart from that, of course, I'm still very much concentrated on my own stories, on my own writing. I believe that this year I'm going to publish at least a few stories of mine.
You're so active in a lot of different ways. I was wondering, where does your energy and passion for science fiction and fantasy come from?
I think you've just answered the question partly. It's passion. It's passion. When you love reading and writing, when you love what you do, you automatically somehow find the energy to do that. Which you know, I believe.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.